Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, House of Representatives budget planning allegations saga continues. Whistleblower Jibrin refuses to appear before House probe panel. House Speaker Yakubu Dogara advocates review of Appropriation Act towards efficient consideration and passage of national budget. Labour unions in the country oppose proposed sale of some national assets to address current economic recession. And Russia criticizes the US and the UK for using unacceptable rhetoric in speeches on Syria, warns of consequences on efforts to end the civil war.
And in business news tonight, African Development Bank offers federal government $4 billion lifeline for power and agricultural development.
And on sports news tonight, Paris Saint-Germain's Ivorian defender Serge Aurier gets suspended prison sentence for hitting a police officer.
And from Abuja, I'm Linda Akibe. Federal High Court judge withdraws from suit filed by the federal government against the self-acclaimed leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu.
We begin tonight from Abuja, where the former chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, Jibrin, made true his threat of not appearing before the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, which is investigating him over allegations of misconduct and breach of privileges of the House of Representatives. The lawmaker had made it clear that he will not appear before the committee, which he says is biased. The chairman of the committee, however, says in spite of the lawmaker's absence, the committee will complete its work with the evidence it has gathered so far.
The decision not to appear is a defense himself, and the committee have taken note of that. I've also made it clear that the condition which Jibrin gave for him to appear has been met, and the issues of we took a census of the media houses, and you could see that the committee have shown a lot of transparency, and I've observed the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in terms of fair hearing in section 36 of the Constitution. And I've also told you yesterday that if Jibrin have anything against any of us, he should appear and tender it. And any of us that is appears to be impartial on the matter, we will excuse the person out of the committee as regards this case. I think we are working in line with the mandate given to us, and we have taken evidence, like what I said. The decision not to appear is a defense on its own. And I think that is the issue. The committee will go back, analyze all the evidences that have been collated, and be able to make their recommendations to the House.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, has proposed a review of the Appropriation Act to set a time frame for the nation's budgetary process. According to the Speaker, such reforms will not only reduce the delay for the passage of the national budget, it will enable lawmakers work on the budget thoroughly before it is passed.
The 2016 budget is one issue that has continued to generate public debate in the country. Issues ranging from budgetary processes to passage and implementation has remained in the public domain. This meeting is organized to discuss the nation's budgetary process. The Speaker of the House of Representatives says there is an urgent need to reform the budgetary process.
A review of how annual budgets of appropriation bills have been prepared and executed in Nigeria since 1999 will reveal an unsatisfactory state of affairs. There is therefore the urgent need for budget reform in Nigeria.
The Governor of Sokoto State and a former Speaker of the House emphasizes the need for planning and also proposed a time frame for the President to submit the budget to the National Assembly.
One of the problems we have in this country is near absence of planning in our budgetary process. If at all, we are interested in making process progress in our efforts to reform our budgetary process, we have to begin to get our planning and budgeting right. There is a need to amend the Constitution to make the President submit his proposals at least 3 months before the end of the preceding financial year, so the legislature can perform its vetting duties in time for the budget to be operational by January 1st.
On his part, the Deputy Senate President, Senator Ike Ekweremadu, advocates a public debate of appropriation bills before they are passed by the National Assembly.
We've had public hearing in less important bills. So there's no bill that's as important as the appropriation bill. If there's any bill that requires public hearing, it is the appropriation bill. And I believe, and I have the authority of the Speaker, to say that going forward, the National Assembly must subject our appropriation bill to public hearing.
Nigeria currently runs a budgetary system that allows the government to carry over the implementation of a previous budget 6 months into a new fiscal year.
Joining us to discuss the recent proceedings in the House is former Chairman, House Committee on Media, Honorable Eseme Ayibo. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Honorable Ayibo, thank you for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very kindly for the opportunity.
What do you make of what's going on in the House, watching your colleagues or your former colleagues navigating their way through allegations and counter-allegations as concerns the budget?
The key issue is that budget or appropriation is an act which is very, very fundamental to the issue of good governance. And of course, what is going on now is very healthy because it's engaging the Nigerian people, the public, and the various institutions of government. And when people talk about scandal, I don't think that the word scandal is the appropriate word to be used in this circumstance. Rather, what is going on is helping to enrich the institutional jurisprudence of the legislature. And it goes further to enlighten the public on most of those processes and the import of the legislature in the democratic process.
You're talking about the passing of the budget itself, the whole process going on. But what about all the infighting going on amongst your former colleagues?
I don't see any infighting. Rather, what I am seeing is some people are misunderstanding the communication gap among members, and of course the inability of the institution itself, that is the House of Representatives, to engage the public on the issue of perception management. Because what is actually going on has nothing to do with personalities. It is just that there has been a communication gap, and over time the public have had this very poor perception of the legislature. And in fact, most people believe that the legislature should not exist in the first place. But if you want to go into the Constitution by itself, the present impasse now in the House of Representatives has provided the platform for the National Assembly, and of course those of us who are very interested in the institution, to preserve the institution of the legislature, to be able to use this moment to raise the ante of public discussion, public conversation, and public education on why the Constitution has so empowered the legislature to function in the capacity it does.
You haven't answered any questions concerning the allegations of misconduct and breach of privileges in the House of Representatives, which the House is bringing against one of your former colleagues, Jibrin, who had already accused the Speaker of the House also of misappropriation. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, Section 60 of the Constitution, however, have empowered the National Assembly to set for itself rules and regulations, you know, for the conduct of his affairs. And of course, the issue of the standing rules of the Senate or the House of Representatives is in the heart of this provision of the Constitution. So, Ethics and Privileges Committee, of course, is a statutory committee of the House of Representatives. And since Honorable Jibrin, my brother, have made various allegations, and now he has an opportunity to be able to articulate and prove those allegations. By the principles of law, whoever alleges must prove. So he has opportunity now, he has been offered an opportunity to be heard, and fairly too. And where he denies himself the opportunity to be heard, he cannot be compelled under any principle. So as long as he has been availed the opportunity to be heard. So he has a right now to go in and canvass and substantiate most of those allegations he made. Then from there, the process, of course, is endless.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, talked about budget reforms. He talked about reforms to reduce delays in passing of the budget, especially for the sake of the 2017 budget. How best can this be done?
Well, you see, in the heart of most of these reforms is the issues of the institutional development. You know, we talk about when the institutions are developed, the institutions are strong. When you talk about reform in this respect, we must also be sure of strengthening the institutions. And for you to be able to strengthen the institutions, the process of recruitment of leadership into such institutions must also be considered. Because no matter the regulations, no matter the legal frameworks or whatever thing you will put in place, international best practice, as long as you have refused or neglected the issue of recruiting proper leadership, proper persons to go in and man these institutions for the enforcement of those best practices and framework, you can't get it right. I agree with him clearly that there is need for reform, and indeed the reform must be premised, you know, on the side of building the institution, preserving the institutions, you know. And when once this is done, that is okay. But the issue is that can the institution on itself, can the institutions by itself be driven without recruiting the right people in the right places? The answer, to the best of my knowledge, is no. We must have the right people in the right places to be able to enforce regulations and build the institutions. Because what we have today all over this country in our national institutions are situations where individuals are stronger and in some cases bigger than the institutions.
Honorable Ayuba, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. In other news, the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, says it is opposed to the proposal to sell some of the nation's assets as a way out of the current economic recession. President of the NLC, Mr. Ayuba Waba, at a joint conference in Abuja with members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, describes the move as inimical to Nigerian workers. The NLC president, who said he will mobilize workers to resist any move by government to sell some of the assets, asked the government to improve on taxation. According to him, the government can grow the economy if it focuses on taxing the rich and eliminating all forms of tax waivers.
Transferring our commonwealth to the ownership of few will further impoverish all of us. And I think it is high time, even for government, to try to take stock of all enterprises that have been privatized before now and what is their state. We are therefore reinstating our position that we are opposed to the sale of those strategic assets in whatever guise in order to try to address the challenges in the economy. Even in America, where this situation happened, it was very clear that it was as a result of the recklessness of the then administration of Bush, who gave all manner of tax waivers to the high and mighty. And therefore, there was no resources enough to even drive process of development. That led to the crash of the stock market, and eventually it resulted in the economic meltdown globally. It also affected us. But I think the option that Obama brought in is to make sure that citizens, especially the high and the mighty, are able to pay their tax. And therefore there was enough to address those challenges, and the economy of that country was able to get out of recession. And I think